Hi, boys and girls. This is Miss Gardner here. Today we're going to be doing a mini lesson on subtracting across zeros, okay? And so I have 4 problems written here, and I want to work through these just to give you guys an idea of how to subtract across zeros because your lesson today, which is in math, talking about subtracting across zeros, is going to be something that you guys will have to do. And since our live class today will be focusing on reading, I wanted to do a live or recorded, mini lesson on subtracting across zeros, okay? So we're going to start here with the first one and we'll just kind of work our way through each of these, okay? Here we go. So if I'm looking at this number here, 600 minus 177, we already have the problem set up correctly because we have the larger number on top. And remember, in subtraction, that is very important that we have the larger number already on top, okay? So we have 600 minus 177. I am going to start in my ones column as usual. Now I look at 7. I cannot take 7 from 0, so now I've got to borrow, okay? So what I'm going to do, this 0 is now going to become a 10. So I'm going to carry the 0 up, and I'm going to borrow 10 from here, a set of 10 from here, rather, okay? So this 0 now becomes a 10, and since this number technically would have been 10, and we're going to work our way over to the left, if I took 1 away from this 10 right here, 1 from 10 is 9, okay? So this number becomes a 9, okay? And we will get to the next part in just a second. So let's just go ahead and subtract. 7 from 10, we already know is 3. 7 from 9 is 2. But I've got to keep borrowing because I had to borrow a set of 10 to go here, okay? So the one that I borrowed to go here, I need to take that from the 6. So the 6 now is a 5. So that becomes a 5. Now I can subtract 1 from 5. And 1 from 5 is going to give me 4. So my answer here is 423. Now remember, guys, I told you anytime we are doing subtraction problems, we should never get those incorrect because we have the ability to go back and check our work. And we know that the opposite of subtraction is addition. So we can go back and add to see if our answers are correct. So the answer I came up with was 423. I'll just write it here. And I'm going to add it back to the number that I had to subtract, which is this right here. Okay, so I'm going to add the 2 together to see what I come up with. 7 and 3 makes 10. 7 plus 2 plus 1 makes 10. 4 plus 1 plus 1 gives me 6, okay? Oh, so I came right back up with the number 600. So that's the same as that top number there. So then the answer that I came up originally of 423 is correct, okay? All right, I'm going to move right along to the next one. And remember, because this is recorded, you all can always go back, pause the video, and take your time to work through these, okay? So if I were you, I would suggest that as I go through each problem, pause the video, write the problem down, try to work it yourself, and then come back and play the video to walk you through it, okay? Let's move on to the second problem here. 1,086 minus 728. We're going to go ahead and start subtracting here. So I can't take 8 from 6, so I'm going to make this 6 turn into a 16 because I've got to borrow 1 from here. So the one that I borrow, or really technically the set of 10 that I borrow here, causes this 6 to be a 16, okay? We talked about that in class on Tuesday, which was yesterday, okay? All right, here we go. So if I took 1 from there or a set of 10 from there, that leaves this number to be a 7, okay? So now I can subtract. So 8 from 16, I know is 8. 2 from 7 gives me 5. I cannot take 7 from 0, so I've got to borrow. So now this 0 becomes a 10, and the one that I borrowed here is now 0. So 7 minus 10 is... 10 minus 7, I said it wrong, is 3. And I have nothing left there. So my answer is 358. To check, I will write 358. plus 728. And let's see what we come up with. 8 plus 8 is 16. Carry my 1, bring down my 6. 2 plus 5 plus 1 is going to give me 8. 7 and 3 is going to give me 10. So my answer is 1,086, which just so happens to be the same number that I started with, okay? So I know my answer of 358 is correct. All right, let's move on to the next problem. I cannot take 7 from 4. My larger number have to be on top. So I've got to make this a 14 because I took 1 from here. So if I took up 1 from this 10 now becomes a 9. Okay? All right. And the one that I borrowed to go here, I borrowed from here. So now since I borrowed 1 from this 3 now becomes a 2. So now I can subtract. Here we go. 7 from 14 leaves me with 7. 3 from 9 leaves me with 6. 1 from 2 leaves me with 1. And 1 from 3 leaves me with 2. So my answer here is 2,167. Let me check my work to see if I'm correct. So I take my answer and I add it back to the number that I subtracted. 7 plus 7 gives me 14. 1 plus 6 plus 3 gives me 10. 1 plus 1 plus 1 gives me 3. 1 plus 2 gives me 3. Okay? And so my answer is 3,304, which is the exact same number that I started with. So I know that my answer of 2,167 is correct. Okay? Now, let's look at this last problem here. Oh, look at all these zeros on this problem. Okay, so let's just jump right in and start. And remember, just take it one number at a time. Don't look at this and get overwhelmed. Just look at it and take it one number at a time, starting in the ones column. So let's go. I cannot take 8 from 0, so this 0 becomes a 10. Because I took my 0 there and I borrowed 1 from this 10, and so this becomes a 10. Okay, now this 10 right here, since I borrowed 1 from it, this becomes a 9. Okay, but if you look at it carefully, I had to borrow 1 from this one to make this a 10. Okay, so the one that I borrowed from this 10 now makes this a 9. Okay. All right. Now, because this set could not be 10 by itself, I needed to borrow 1 to make this a 10 in order for me to subtract here to let one of these ones go over here. This number now turns into a 3. Okay? Let's take a step back before we start subtracting. Let me show you what I did. I could not take 8 from 0, so I had to turn that into a 10. So I took my 0 to the top. The one that I borrowed from my neighbor went here, and that becomes a 10. Okay? You with me? Great. Now, I took 1 from this 10 to give here, so this 10, because I took 1 from it, became a 9. Okay? I had to borrow because I needed a set of 10 here, and that was 0. So I had to borrow a set of 10, which I borrowed from here. Okay? So since I borrowed a set of 10 from here, this 10 became a 9. This was not 10 just yet. I had to borrow from this 4 to put 1 there so that I can let the other zeros borrow, okay? The one that I took from here to go there, I had to make this a 3 because I took 1 from that, okay? Hopefully you're with me, okay? Now we will subtract. 8 from 10 is 2. 9 from 9 is 0. 6 from 9 is 3. 1 from 3 is 2. So my answer is 2,303. I'm sorry, and 2. But let's just make sure I'm correct. Here we go. Let's add 2,302. Add it right back to what we subtracted, which is 1,698. Let's add. 8 plus 2 is 10. 9 plus 0 plus 1 is 10. 6 plus 3 plus 1 is 10. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. And we started out with 4,000. So I know that my answer of 2,302 is correct. Boys and girls, this is how we subtract across zeros. I want you to take your time and go back through these problems, work them out on your own, write them down. You have it here, or you can pause the video and try to work through these on your own, okay? We will talk more about this later. You have a super fantastic day. Bye-bye.